Hey, what's up, Troop 486? It's Assistant Scoutmaster Andy, and I'm going to go ahead and teach you guys how to make another chicken recipe that you can do at a base camp. So we're going to go back over real quick, just in case you didn't see the last one.
Hi, Micah.
I'm cooking with boneless, skinless chicken tenderloins. This is a small part of the chicken breast. It's a little thinner. It cooks much quicker. It's much easier for a base camp. It's what you guys should be buying. Go to the freezer section of Stater Brothers, Albertsons, wherever you guys are doing your patrol shopping, and you can buy probably a 5-pound bag. Once again, I'm going to go over it again. Your rule of thumb for your small scouts is 1/3 of a pound. For your smaller scouts, for your older scouts, your 7th, 8th graders, all the way up to high schoolers, are going to aim for a 1/2 pound of protein. So you're going to want to buy a big bag of them. They defrost really easily, and you can cook them really easily. So I've already defrosted some, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do.
Micah's going to supervise.
One of the things that I want to encourage you to do is right when you're getting ready to go, pans take a long time to heat up. So you're going to go ahead and turn on your pan, and you're going to get it heating up because you want to have a hot pan to cook with. We don't cook with cold pans. You don't want to put your protein in a pan and then start heating it up. It's not going to cook right. It won't look good, and it's not going to brown. And that's one of the fun things about it. One of the favorite chickens you guys always talk about, I hear people talk about it, is Popeye's chicken or Chick-fil-A chicken or Raising Cane's, and it doesn't matter who. All of their chicken fingers that they make, every single one of them, depending on where you go, they're using chicken breast tenderloins, which is what I just showed you, and they brine them. Now, a lot of times we don't have time to brine things, but one of the things I've started doing...
What is brine?
So brine, that's a good question. So brine is a mixture of salt, water, and sugar. Sometimes spices, it just depends on what it is. A lot of times they cook up these huge batches, and you're going to soak your chicken in this brine, and what ends up happening is the water leaves the chicken, and the salt water, the salt kind of sweet water, goes into the chicken, and it makes a really juicy chicken. It's the way that Chick-fil-A has chicken that's so juicy. It's the way Raising Cane's, all their chicken, when you bite into it, has a ton of flavor. And you're like, oh, what is that? Well, a big part of that is they brined their chicken. And there's a lot of ways you can brine your chicken. One of the easiest ways for a base camp is actually buttermilk. You can buy buttermilk, pour in a gallon Ziploc bag or a quart Ziploc bag, pour buttermilk in there and put your chicken breast in there, and you're going to be good. It's going to be a lot of flavor. A lot of fried chicken is buttermilk brined. A way I like to do it, and the way Chick-fil-A does it, is what's called a pickle brine. So I actually literally save my pickles. So when I eat a jar of pickles, and I'll show you here.
We'll go back to Micah.
So I'll buy my pickles. When I'm done eating this jar of pickles, on the bottom half, there's probably this much brine left. That's enough for about 6 chicken tenderloins. I'll save a couple of them. Sometimes Miss Christina, Assistant Scoutmaster Christina, she'll be driven a little crazy because she'll see all this pickle brine in our fridge. But I'll save some of it. So it's up to you guys. You guys can use buttermilk brine. You can use pickle brine. You can save it if you know you have a base camp coming up. You can start saving it. Or you can go online, and I'll try to link you a copy of how to get a good brine. But anyways, regardless of how you do it, you want to brine your chicken. And so what you're going to do is on Friday or Thursday when you buy it, you're going to get your chicken breast tenderloins. You're going to put them in a gallon Ziploc bag. Or in this case, I'm making a smaller amount, so I did a quart. And you're going to put your brine in there, and you're going to let it soak about 24 to 48 hours. It's totally fine. You can do it on Friday before you leave, so on Saturday when you're making dinner, it's ready to go. You don't want to do it too long, but it's all right. This is going to work for you. You can do it as little as Saturday morning, start brining, and doing it that way. Next thing you want to do is you're going to take your chicken out of the brine, and I'm just going to set it out. And so,
What brine did you use for this?
I used a pickle brine for this.
Okay.
And so you can see we have our brine, and now you have this. It's not worth anything. You're not going to use it. You're going to end up throwing it out. Do not put it in plants or anything like that because it's really salty. So going back to, we do not need to salt this because, like I said, this is salt water. But what you do need to do, you do want to make sure you do, is you want to make sure you're going to go ahead and pepper it. So we're going to go ahead and pepper our chicken. And you're going to go ahead and flip it over. It's plenty of salt and is already in it. So unlike the last chicken we made, the barbecue chicken with the simple salt and pepper, this is just pepper. All right.
Would you add salt if it was a buttermilk brine?
Nope. If it's a buttermilk brine, you're still not going to be adding any salt to it. The buttermilk itself has enough flavor in there, and it's going to add a lot of moisture to it. Next thing you're going to do is it's about a tablespoon of butter. You're going to want to put a tablespoon of butter in your pan. And so we've been heating our pan for a little bit. I'm going to turn it up a little higher now. Make sure it's really going. And then you're going to pour in about a tablespoon of oil. I have a little pourer. It's about a second pour, maybe a second and a half. If you feel more comfortable because you haven't cooked as much, you're going to want to do a tablespoon pour. But you're going to want to make sure you get it coated, and you want this to be nice and hot. So we're going to get this bubbling. You should never see smoke coming out of the oil. That's too hot. But this is a mixture of butter and oil. I use, unlike the bottle, I don't use extra virgin. I use a Middle Eastern oil, which is a mix of grapeseed and olive oil and a couple other different oils, which is better for cooking of things. You can start seeing we're going to start getting it nice and hot. We want a really, really hot pan. Really important that when you put protein in a pan, we talked about it before, protein goes in a hot pan. Protein does not go in a cold pan. Next most important thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure your chicken is as close to room temperature. So even if it's in a brine, you're going to be taking it out as early as you can, probably an hour, if you can, an hour before you plan on cooking it. You don't want to do it for 4 or 5 hours. You're going to want to do it at most an hour beforehand, but you want to get your protein as close to room temperature as you can. So you're going to go ahead and throw it in there. Hear that nice sizzle? That's the sound we're looking for. Next thing you want to do, just like with our last video, we want to give everything room. Everything needs to have room so that it's not crowded. Why is that? Well, when you crowd your protein, you don't get these nice brown edges. It doesn't brown evenly, and we want our meat to brown nice and evenly. So we talked about wanting to have meat that is as close to room temperature as possible. One of the other ways you know you've cooked meat that is too cold is sometimes when it's cooking, it'll kind of have this liquid that comes out of it, and it's a water and a protein, and it kind of makes this white solid next to your meat. That means your meat is too cold. You should have brought your meat out sooner. This happens with beef, and it'll be kind of a grayish color that gets solid. It happens with pork, and it'll be kind of a pinkish color that gets solid. And with my experience in chicken, it's a whitish color that comes out, and it gets solid. That means your protein is too cold, and it was not ready to be cooked. You want to bring your protein closer to room temperature, as close to room temperature as you can before you cook it. Obviously, we want to pay attention to food safety, so you don't want it to be out for a long time. But a good rule of thumb is about an hour before you eat. Now, I know sometimes with our base camps, we're out there doing things and we can't always get it. So maybe what you want to do is you want to move up your protein to the top of your ice chest, so it's on the top of the ice chest. And while you're prepping the food area, or you're washing hands, or getting everything ready, then you take it out of the ice chest before you start cooking. So depending on what's going on. So if you come on over here, what am I talking about with space? So sometimes I've watched you boys cook, and when you're cooking, I'll see all this meat. You're going to try to put together as many pieces of chicken in here as you can because you don't want to cook multiple batches. You want to avoid doing that. You'd rather cook in batches. You want to make sure everything has room on the plate. You don't want to crowd your frying pan. Next thing is you're going to have oil in your pan, right? So we have this mixture of oil. So you want to make sure that your oil is getting everywhere because that oil is carrying a lot of the flavor. What's really nice about a brined chicken is a brined chicken has a lot of salt within it, and it makes a really nice even golden hue when you start cooking it. So as you can see, we can start seeing it's going from pink, that's raw, and if you look down here, it's kind of white. And you can see that it's cooking. And then if you look on the edges, you can start seeing just the starting color of it turning brown. So if we were to look, we're starting to see a color. Now this is too soon, but it gets you lets you know what we're looking for. So it's starting to brown nice and evenly. If our meat was crowded, it wouldn't be that nice and even color. We want a nice, even golden brown. That's what we're aiming for. So, one of the other things you can start to do while you're cooking it, one of the French cooking methods, and you'll see a lot of shows talk about this, is you can kind of start scooping oil, and you can put the oil that has a lot of flavor. This is oil and butter. You can pour it over your meat. It's got a lot of flavor, and so you can do that. It doesn't matter if you're cooking steak. It doesn't matter if you're cooking chicken or pork. Regardless of what it is, if you do that, what you're doing is you're kind of creating a baste over it. That's a really nice flavor. So it creates a really good mixture on it. So we're starting to see this piece here, right? We poured hot oil over it. It's got a lot of flavor in it. You can start seeing it right there. That it's about ready to turn over. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to turn over. You can see it's a much better color, right? Nice and golden brown. That's what we're aiming for. You can see this piece right here, same thing, right? The beautiful, simple chicken. This one in the middle is getting good. They're all looking actually really good. About ready to flip over. And you can see we probably had a hot spot up there. So this one's a lot darker than the rest of them. So one of the ways I can adjust the hot spot is I can flip my pan. And that'll help some of the other chicken there. So we're going to cook. Each side that you're going to be cooking is going to be about 4 minutes. This is part of the reason why I want to encourage you guys to buy this kind of chicken. It's not too thick. If you buy big split chicken breasts that have the bone in it, those for me to cook take 30 minutes, and I have to put them in the oven to make sure they cook evenly without drying out. This chicken is going to cook for you really, really nicely in about 10 minutes, maybe 12. If you were able to get it as close to room temperature as possible, it'll be closer to 10 minutes. And you're not going to dry it out because it's not too thick. It's going to be nice and cooked evenly. It's going to cook very evenly, and so it's not going to dry out in some spots and other spots not so much, which happens when you get really thick pieces of chicken. Or sometimes I watch you guys and you guys get pre-cooked chicken. Not too hard to make this. You can do this without buying pre-cooked chicken. This chicken right here, very similar. This is a brined one. The one we did before, you don't have to put the barbecue sauce on it. You could chop it up and you could put it in pasta. You could chop it up and make tacos out of it. You can do a lot of different fun things. All right, so we're going to check our temperatures. What we're aiming for is about 165 degrees. And so that's what we're looking for. We're still a little ways away from that. We're getting close though. We're at 130. I use a probe thermometer, and I'm going to show you a different way that you can test without using a thermometer. And it's not as accurate, obviously, as a thermometer is, but it's going to be pretty good. So once again, I want to take advantage of all this yummy flavor that we have here. It's got the seasoning from our brine that we used. It's got nice and flavorful oil and butter. Tastes really good. Butter has a little bit of salt in it, so it's just going to add a lot of great flavor to it. You want to make a really nice meat. This type of chicken that we're making right now is really good. You take 2 of these and you're going to put it on a sandwich, and you can make chicken sandwiches that way. So if you want to make chicken sandwiches, you can do that. So a brine chicken makes a really good chicken sandwich. You put your chicken on there, put a slice of cheese, put some lettuce, put some tomato, get some hot hamburger buns, and you're good to go. You have a chicken sandwich just like you would get anywhere else, but it's going to be homemade and it's going to be really delicious. It's going to be really tasty. So going back here, we're going to check again. We're getting closer. We're in the 150 range, just about. So we're getting really close. That middle part of the pan, you can tell, is definitely not as hot. But that top part of the pan, man, it's hot, right? So we're getting really close. So with some of the few that you want to make sure we can get to the end, we're going to move them to the hot spot because we know the top of our pan is hotter. This is one of the things where it's not a bad idea to get a probe thermometer. This probe thermometer works very fast. But when you flip over like that, one last time, this is for about 30 more seconds, and you're going to see we're going to be really close. We're probably going to be done. So we're going to give it about, yep, coming up. It's going to be real quick. And we're good on a bunch of them. So now that I know we're good, I'm going to baste it one last time, get the oil and the butter on there. Something you can easily do at every base camp. This isn't fancy, there's nothing special going on here. These are all ingredients you guys have in your patrol boxes. We're going to turn off our heat. Now keep in mind, just because I turn that heat off, that pan is still very, very hot. Right? Metal is a good conductor of heat, so you got to be careful. And so we're good to go, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to check our meat to make sure that it's cooked. All right, here we go. So what I want you to do is, if we're looking at our meat, raw chicken is kind of a pinkish color. What we're looking for is a solid white piece of meat. So what you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up cutting a big piece in half, kind of one of our bigger pieces. You want to look inside and you want to have a nice whitish color here. Not the pink color that you get from your raw chicken, you want a nice whitish color. For a piece of chicken breast tenderloin, we're looking at about 8 to 10 minutes of cooking, about 5 minutes per side. If you need to finish off just one piece, you can flip it again, but usually you only have to flip once. And you're ready to go. This is a good chicken. You can make a chicken sandwich out of it. You can throw it in pastas. You can throw it in all sorts of things. It's a really diverse, versatile chicken, so you can use it in a lot of different things. Easy to do. It's got all the ingredients you have in your patrol box. You're ready to go. You can prepare for it. You can buy buttermilk brine and brine your chicken that way. I'll post a link that also has just a simple brine that you guys can use with sugar and salt. There's a lot of different brines, and you can start looking into that. That's a really fun way to make chicken, and it's a really easy way you can do it on your base camps. Thanks so much, guys.